Hello and welcome to this Tango video tutorial about Ochos, Ochitos and twists. We are Iris and Helmut and you just saw the repertoire in the intro. One more time to recap, we have classic Ochos, pivot and step, pivot and step. We have Ochitos, we call also double Ocho sometimes, small Ocho, and the same with the change of weight. So we have Ocho, change of weight, Ocho. Usually they're a little bit smaller than a full Ocho track. And we have twists where we don't have a step, but just pivot, change of weight, pivot, change of weight, ting, tang, tung. And also to the other side, we can play with this. In this video, we want to share with you exercises, how we prepare that on a technical level, and then give some suggestions how we can apply it in the Milonga. The main engine motor for this movement are your diagonal abdominal muscles, also called obliques. So when you're standing facing now the camera or later the partner, you want to create a twist inside your body that your pelvis is going diagonal where your torso, your ribcage is still in direction. Your shoulders want to really stay parallel, your ribcage already slightly opens and your pelvis overtakes and is even more diagonal. So we can have this little exercise first that you put yourself diagonal and your ribcage straight. And on the other, I put myself diagonal and your ribcage straight. And depending on how much you practice this torsion in your body, those who practice yoga, for those who will be, it will be probably easier. It's enough to have a little bit. Pay attention that it's not about doing a lot and then you feel first uncomfortable and also you're less exact in executing it. It's a little bit that we need. Once we found the position, let's have it once also into the camera. So we are there and we put ourselves and put with the pelvis diagonal and the torso and the shoulders back. Once to the other side, diagonal, and I put my torso facing the camera. Good. Now I want to use the obliques to create this torsion. So let's face again that you can copy us behind. I go on one foot, I went to the right, and I start to pivot my pelvis. And I continue on the other side. And one more there, and one more there. Pay attention that I'm pivoting on the ball of the foot, so not on the heel. And I'm also just on one leg and not doing something with weight on both. So one more time, 4 separate times. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now 4 together. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And back. 4 separate. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4 continuous. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Feel how here you're calm. If you're working with a partner, you can agree that one is doing the exercise and one is helping. So the one who is doing the exercise is doing the pivot. Do it backward or forward as you like. She's doing that, changing the weight and changing again. So I also move a little bit backward that she has space. And now when she's doing to the continuous way, I have just to pay attention to be with her. Tack, tick, tack, tack. Very nice. So with your partner, we have a little bit of muscle tonus here, but very relaxed. So it's not a lot. It's more like 2 on a scale of 10. Let's do the same backward. So we have the single pivots, alignment check, alignment there, track, 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 and the continuous ones. Very nice. What I see very clearly when Iris is in front of me, that the hips are moving far more than the ribs are moving. But the ribs are also moving a little bit. And the shoulders are very calm. So it's getting more and more, the more it's getting down. So if, let's take again this embrace and now let's reproduce it from the apertura, and we have again the twist, we have one step and the twist again. And I'm not leading it, I'm just accompanying my partner. Let's do it from the other perspective that you can see the follower. So we have apertura, forward or backward, you decide. So she's deciding for a backward. And I feel how she's paralyzing, creating the torsion, and then stepping. 4 times, and then release. Now, let's do the other. We did first backward, let's do forward. Track, and back. Yes. Track, and track. How can we lead that? What I felt from her was that when she created the twist, it was a little bit compressing the energy. So if I now do the same to lead it, from the apertura, I'm open. I start to compress, and I think of opening to this side for the forward ocho, and I think of opening to the other side for the backward ocho. What do I mean with opening? If you're watching us here, we have the axis in the center, and I imagine 2 other columns, left and right. And they're in parallel position, they are equally big. And if I want to inflate one side, then it will create the pivot to one side. And if I create to the other, it will create the pivot. You see, our wrists are very stable. So I'm not trying to do any parallel movement in that sense. I keep the axis in the center for the pivot, and I create the space to one side, and it's the twist in her body that is creating the pivot. And I'm giving a little bit of stability here, but it's also her relation or her frame that is very stable, and I would call it more, she elongates the position from the last rib to the elbow, or shortens it, depending on, like, if she's a backward ocho, she shortens it a little bit. If it's a forward ocho now, she elongates this distance here. Now, if I lead that, let's go in tango embrace. As I said before, I compress a little bit, and then comes the step. I create this compression, and with the step, I regain a little bit of height. If I exaggerate, it would be compress, expand, compress, expand. I'm not going really down in my knees, I'm just releasing and compressing, getting my elbows, everything a little bit more compact. There are other videos where we explain that in detail, if you're not familiar yet with this technique. In the final process, it's just like 0.5 centimeter maybe. So you don't see it as much, but if you don't use it, the movement gets far more difficult, and it will feel like and so I don't know for whom of us it's more exhausting. I think for both of us. So we don't want that, and we want to have this level of compactness and compression in a good way. Of course, I'm not compressing in a way that it's like. You remember our 2 primary principles. Take responsibility to feel good, to feel comfortable, and move your own body. So the pivot is happening in her body. I'm not trying to provoke the pivot in her body. I'm just like inviting her to create it on her own. Yes, that was about the ocho. Now, we want that, and after creating the first step, I immediately give the impulse again. So that's how the Ochito is happening. I can also change the weight to have the same rhythm in my steps, or I prefer that I can have it with one long step. So she's doing it, and I lead the first one without going, and then I go for the second. It depends. It has to be small enough that I can do just one step. If the first one is very big, okay, I need to come to be with her. Play with that. Now we do the same backward. So we go to the side, I change, and I have the first, I'm waiting, I'm going for the second. First, and I'm going with the second. Or parallel, and one thing that helps me, especially for the beginning, is to think that both steps should be equally big. So if the step of the first Ochito is like this, also the second is again like this. To have the first one small and the second big, or big and then small, makes it more challenging. Later everything is possible, but we recommend keep it the same size. The third element of today's tutorial, twists. Twists, we use a lot what we call modern hero, that we go around the partner, but just using either forward or backward. And so that was a full hero with, I don't know, 10, 12 twists. Usually we do it 5 times, maybe 7. Usually an impair number of steps. So we have from that 1, 2, 3 could be exit, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then exit. Or it could also be a rebote that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then come back. How do I lead that? Again, I compress to create a pivot, and then I immediately lead the change of weight. So there's tack, tack, tack. How do I lead the change of weight? I release the breath.
It's telepathic.
Telepathy, yes. So I just say pivot and step, pivot and change of weight. And the release of the breath, though, is not as complete as maybe in a long step, because there will be many steps. So it's just a very quick release, but it's a different from that if we want to have the projection of the step as well. Forward is easier, backward is also nice, but requires a little bit more practice. Yeah, now to finish, some structures for the Milonga. I like very much to start with a normal ocho. So we have one normal ocho and then ochito, ochito, finish. One more time, so we'd have one normal ocho, padido, and then we continue whatever, and also whatever system you want. I like also, this is for the backward ocho and ochito. I like also to play with the symmetry of ochitos. So if that is my line of dance, and we're walking caminata, I like to have, for example, one ochito forward diagonal in this direction, and then to have a second in this direction. And maybe one time I do just one step, and the second time I do 2 steps. And a suggestion for twists, we can have a rebote to the side, and then tacca, tacca, dicca, dum. As with the ochitos, I can also do the little steps, 1 and 2 and 3, or later I just lead it from my last trips, and she's doing it, and I'm just turning with her. We hope this tutorial gave you some inspiration and useful tips. If you liked it, we would look forward to receive a like from you. And if you have any questions, write us a comment and we'll get there.